Hey there, John Morris here, johnmorrisonline.com. Welcome back to another episode of the John Morris Show. So, how y'all doing? Today, here it is Friday, so it's also my wife's birthday. So, I don't know, I'm feeling good. I've got a little bit of my coffee already in me, so got that going for me. And man, the last few days have been really interesting. For me. So one of the things that I'm coming to is a lot of times when I do these episodes, I have notes that I use and I go from. And the main reason why I did that is I wanted to make sure you guys probably know this, I can be a bit of a rambler and like go off on tangents and so forth. So, you know, I would have notes to keep me on topic and so forth. But one of the things I've noticed is that has led me to sort of feel disconnected a little bit from you guys and who I'm speaking to, because I sort of have these notes. I'm a little bit OCD in that sense. Like if I'm going to write notes, then the notes are going to be detailed and then I'm going to follow the notes. And so I feel like it's sort of made me a little bit disconnected, and I really don't want that. So I'm going to go back to sort of doing the no notes sort of thing. Today I have a question from Luke Reynolds on YouTube that I'm going to go through, talking about freelancing while at the same time running a full-time job, and sort of should you do that, some of the things you can do to deal with that sort of scenario when time is a little bit tight. And I'm going to relay to you or talk to you about my experience when I had a full-time job. I was also deployed for the Army, and I was freelancing all at the same time. And so I think some of the things that I learned from that particular scenario, which was really crazy, you can take and apply to what you're doing. So I want to get into that question. Before I do, so one of the things that I'm coming to is I really want this show to be sort of a resource for you guys. That's ultimately why I started doing this. And I think the best way to do that is exactly what we're doing here, is answering questions. I think when I'm answering questions, I'm really sort of in my element, and it's a lot easier for me to stay on topic. Whereas when I start sort of trying to come up with things on my own, that's when things sort of kind of get off the rails and get a little crazy. And so if you guys have questions or you have something you'd like me to talk about in particular related to, now the thing to keep in mind with this is not just a YouTube channel. This is an audio podcast as well. And I'm very sensitive about that, because I know a lot of people, and I get these comments all the time, they listen to it on iTunes or Android in their car as they're driving and so forth. And so I really try hard not to make those people feel like they're missing out on something, because this really is meant to be a podcast. So I know a lot of you have coding tutorials and so forth. If you have ideas for that sort of thing, just go to johnsfreetutes.com and click on the suggested tutorial link, and that's where you can do that sort of thing. But when it comes to career, comes to life or productivity or any of that other stuff that's not the technical side of things, that's really what this is meant for. So if you have questions along those lines, I'm really an open book. I'm going to try to be better about doing that and talking about sort of the things that I'm going through and so forth. So, you know, I want to really kind of dive in on that, and I need your guys' help, because I need those questions. I need those things that you guys want to know and so forth. And I'll try to do my best about really being open with you on it. So with that said, let's get into this question from Luke. So he says, John, I've been listening to your podcast every day for the last couple of months, ever since I stumbled on a video called something like the exact skills you need to be a PHP developer. If you're on YouTube, I'll link to that up here on the top right. If you're on the audio version, you can get on the show notes page, which will be johnmorrisshow.com/314. I'll link to that video. So it says, you're one of the best talking dev bloggers out there. In fact, I stopped listening to all others. I had already learned basic PHP and object-oriented programming from another Udemy course before I found you, but I bought yours just to support you, which, thank you. That's freaking awesome. May I ask some advice? I'm contemplating the Upwork 101 course, but not sure I'm ready. Stuck juggling a very busy job where I manage a small customer support team at a software company and my family. Time is tight. Started one project with a friend, but it's one we're doing for free for another friend. A time tracking app for factory workers with PHP, MySQL, Bootstrap, etc. on the front end. But taking the jump to start doing more is scary. I've got a very good salary now, but work too hard. Freelancing is where I want to be, but justifying it is hard. Any advice? So the ultimate answer, so there's a couple things here. It's should I do it? It's maybe how can I manage my time a little bit better and so forth. So let's talk about the should I do it thing. And to me, you sort of have answered your own question, because the last line on here is really the one that's the indicator. Freelancing is where I want to be, but justifying it is hard. Look, man, that's it. That's all that matters, right? If freelancing is really in your mind, you know that's what you want to do. You're never going to be happy until you do anything else. So ultimately, nothing else really matters. The practicality and this, that, the other of all of it, it's never going to be enough to make you happy when to do something that you don't want to do. A good example I can point to from my life. I was 21 years old. I've talked about the fact that I was a shoe salesman for a while, and I was a damn good one. So much so that I had got promoted to manage my own store in about, the training time was about 18 months. I got promoted in about 9. It was something I was really, really good at, and I didn't mind. It wasn't horrible, right? It wasn't construction work, which is what I had done before, or factory work, which I'd done, all that sort of stuff. It was a fairly easy job, and I enjoyed sales. And so I got promoted to manage the store, and I was making more money than I ever made in my life up to that point. And, the way I grew up, it sort of was my way out is how I viewed it. And I was managing that store about 3 months, and I quit. And the reason I quit is because my heart wasn't in it. I looked at my future, and I imagined more for myself than being a damn shoe salesman. Ultimately, that's not to knock people that do that sort of thing. That was what I ultimately came to. And so at 21 years old, with really no plan, this was the one thing that had gone well for me really in my life up to that point. I walked away from it all. And the reason is I just could not get myself to get up in the morning to do it anymore. And so again, at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So if freelancing is where you want to be, you have to pursue it. And the thing is it's not even about being successful with it. That's the reality of it. It's simply about pursuing it. That's what brings us alive. That's the game. So you have to figure out some way to be able to start pursuing what you really want to do, or you're never going to be happy. You're going to be miserable. It's going to affect your family life. It's going to affect all these your relationships with these other business partners. It's going to affect all of that stuff. It's eventually going to erode all of that away, and you're going to lose all of that anyway. So you might as well just be honest with yourself and bite the bullet and do it now. So that's the first thing. The second thing, in terms of maybe more the time management stuff, you've got to be ruthless if that's really the case. So this is one of the things that I learned when I was working for a company, I was freelancing, and I was also mobilized full-time for the Army. I had literally no time. Every waking hour was spent doing something. And what I learned from that is that I had to be ruthless. I had to be ruthless about where my priorities are. And the reality is if freelancing is what you really want to do, that is your top priority. Not necessarily over your family, but these friends that you're working on a free project for, I'm sorry, but that might have to go out the door, right? Because, unless it's something that's really making you happy and something that you enjoy and want to be doing, okay. But, you've just got to be ruthless with your time and be willing to make those hard decisions. Otherwise, you're just going to sort of be stuck where you're at. The other thing is you actually have an advantage. And this is one thing that I've tried to talk about in the past before, but you have an advantage in that you have a job that you say pays well and so forth, that's a good thing, because now you can take a more objective, sort of rational, methodical approach to building your freelancing career than maybe someone who like literally needs this next gig in order to be able to buy food for the month. So you can be a little bit more strategic than someone who just has to essentially take whatever they can get. And that's a good thing. The other thing is that, again, I'll make the assumption here, you have money. So you don't need to do everything. In fact, you shouldn't be doing everything, because time for you is a much more valuable asset than money is. So use your money to get more time back, meaning all of the things that you got to do for the freelance part of your business, there are plenty of things that you don't need to do yourself. Maybe it's coming up with graphics, or if you're going to start doing videos, it's editing the videos, or you're going to write blog posts. Maybe you don't even need to write them yourself. Hell, it could be that actually building the websites or the applications or whatever you build, that might not be the thing that is the best use of your time. You might be better at the marketing side of things and getting clients, or you might be better at the client relationship back and forth. And in that case, outsourcing the coding part of things would be the smart thing to do. I don't know. I don't know you. I don't know the ins and outs, but you really have to look at that and figure out what is your sort of key activity. What is the thing that you are best at? And then everything else is up for potentially being outsourced, delegated, whatever. And use your money to get that time back. That's how you can do something where you have maybe a full-time job, but you want to do this other thing. That's how you can make it work, is using the money from your job to help you get that time back. And take a certain amount of money and put it aside each month and say, this is for my business. This is for running my business and getting this up and started. So there's all these sort of practical things that you can sort of go through and think about and so forth. But at the end of the day, if freelancing is where you want to be, or whatever it is, this, that, the other is where you want to be, you're not going to be happy until you start chasing it. So you have to just figure it out. You have to figure a way out to be able to pursue that. And, the question of starting to do more is scary. Honestly, that's something that never goes away. There's things that scare the hell out of me even to this day, even though I've been doing this for almost a decade and a half, or however long it is. These last few days, with everything that I've been talking about with the videos and so forth and all of that, creating a site where I give like half of everything that I have up for sale away for free, that scares the hell out of me. That's something that I'm not certain about, but I feel like it's right. And so no matter how scary it is, you got to go for it, and you got to let the chips fall where they may. So again, that's not some magic trick that's going to make it so instantly you don't feel fear, or you don't feel overwhelmed, or any of that stuff. But it's the truth. Pursue it no matter what. You're not going to be happy until you do. And try to, along with that, find ways where you can be smart about how you're doing it. But don't let being smart or being practical stop you from doing what you really want to do. So that's what I got on that question. Hopefully that gives you something that you can work with and go forward from there. Like I said at the beginning, if you have questions, please either leave them in the comments if you're on YouTube, or you're watching on my site. If you're on Android, iTunes, TuneIn, you can just shoot them to support at johnmorrisonline.com. Also, if you'd like to support the show, I'd really appreciate that. You can either become a Patreon supporter over on Patreon, which is johnmorrisonline.com/Patreon. You're going to get access to all of my premium courses, all my source code, basically everything I have. Allow me to keep doing this for you. Or if you're not in the financial position to do that, what I would really, really appreciate if you share my new site, johnsfreetoots.com. That would be a huge help. I would greatly appreciate that. So, all right, that'll do it for this episode. If you like the episode, do me two favors, okay? I want to make, if you like the episode, don't just like it, but please leave me a comment. I need those comments to come in to sort of combat the negative ones. And I'm going to start saying this. I'm going to start saying what I need from you in order to give me that sort of encouragement and motivation to keep going. And that is one thing that I just need. I've come to terms with that the last few episodes. That I there's enough. I don't have a huge channel, but there's still enough negative comments that I get that it can be demotivating. So please, 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 if you like the episode, leave me a comment letting me know, like the video and all that. And I'd really, really appreciate that. Also, if you'd like to get the past episodes or subscribe to the audio version so you can listen in your car while you're working out, all those sorts of things, you can find that at johnmorrisshow.com. All those links are just right there. And finally, if you would rate and review the podcast over on iTunes, I'd really appreciate that. I'll also give you Module 1 of my PHP 101 course for free. All the information on that you can find at johnmorrisshow.com. Just click on the Start Here link at the top. All right, that'll do it. Again, thank you very, very much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.